Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates.
Our economy is in a mess, but the entire world's economy is in a mess. And all governments, all central banks are doing the best they can to pull them out of this situation. Now, countries have limitations. Countries have different kinds of resources. America, as we keep telling you, has the world's reserve currency. They can print dollars. As they print dollars, other countries who have foreign exchange reserves will buy their treasury bonds. To that extent, their deficit will be financed. But most countries in the world, including India, do not have a currency which can function as a reserve currency. So they have limitations. Now, what can these countries do to fix their economy? So we've had a conversation just yesterday with Geeta Gopinath, who is the IMF chief economist and one of the best known and famous economists of Indian origin. You can watch that entire off the cuff on our YouTube page. In fact, I'm giving you a link also with the description of this edition of Cut the Clutter. So one point that keeps coming up all the time in these debates is helicopter money. Now, we know that one TV channel in Karnataka, a Kannada channel, talked about helicopter money, that Modi government will pump prime the economy by using helicopter money, and they got notice allegedly for fake news by Press Information Bureau. But helicopter money is not exactly government pump priming the economy by distributing money. It is not to be confused with basic income. The exact definition, although the definition that economist Milton Friedman gave it in 1969 was a little bit different, but as it evolved by the early 20th century under Ben Bernanke, when he was the US Federal Reserve Governor, it was that when you have interest rates that are really low, maybe even zero, and yet nobody is borrowing because nobody wants to invest, there is no demand, you get a recession or a depression. Their governments or central banks, in more advanced economies, central banks can get money directly into some sections of the economy that they might consider more meritorious for receiving that money. As we can see, UK government has just done that by extending loans to small businesses, 300 billion pounds plus worth of loans to small businesses. US government is also doing that with many of their businesses. US government is also giving away money to ordinary citizens because as I said, they can keep printing dollars. So this question came up in my conversation with Geeta Gopinath also. And of course, we laughed a little bit about the idea of helicopters coming and dropping money on top of all of us. But here is something she said, her exact quote, and it's quite interesting. She said, "This is a crisis that calls for very targeted measures. You don't want to do helicopter drops all over the country, which means you have limited money. You can't go around scattering it all over. But you have a recession coming up. You have a demand collapse. You also have a production collapse. You also have people losing jobs. You also have a lot of people, tens of crores, going under the poverty line. So you have to do something to revive the economy." So the idea of getting money where it will make a big difference and help to restart the economy, not just because the money is there. So money should be used in such a way that it helps preserve the current jobs, hopefully create new jobs, and third, prevent a complete demand collapse. So that is where you need this kind of money and state intervention. She said also, I will tell you 2 or 3 things, key things she said. She said, firms should not be bankrupted before the crisis ends. Now, a lot of the firms are struggling. In fact, a lot of the media firms are struggling. And this crisis goes on. Our lockdown has been extended. Maybe after 2 weeks, there will be more districts that will be red districts as we speak today. All of the districts in Delhi are red zones. So effectively, nothing will open here. And these are the engines of India's growth. So if that carries on, many firms will go bankrupt. And as they go bankrupt, there will be massive job losses. Massive job losses have already started. job losses, wage cuts, hiring freezes, all that has started. The employment situation is a bloody mess in the country. But if this goes on, this will get worse. Look at restaurants, for example, small enterprises. Look at barber shops, look at salons, look at your neighborhood electronic shop, anything. Everything is now your pawn shop. Forget all that. Look at your presswala, the guy who comes and irons clothes in your street. All those guys are losing jobs. If even the presswala has an attendant, maybe, or a helper, maybe he's also been sent home. So this job loss has to be prevented, and this economy has to be given support at this time. So she says firms should not be bankrupt before the crisis ends. And then there are several methods. There is loan forbearance, which means if you owe a loan to a bank or an institution, you can be given a moratorium. You can pay after 3 months, not like the nonsense that happened just now with credit cards and housing loans, that you can have a moratorium for 3 months but continue to pay interest on that. Okay, it's useful for people who've lost their jobs, but still it's very little help. In fact, it has led to a different kind of pestilence now, which is credit card companies, the greedy, pestilential fellows, if I may say so, and it's also personal experience, who call you very sweetly, innocently. Even a good company like American Express, they call you very sweetly and tell you that now you have a moratorium for 3 months on your payments, as if it's a favor from heavens. What they don't tell you is that they are going to charge you penal interest for that period. So they are even this is being used by them to make additional profits by hoodwinking their customers. I'm a bit raw. That's the reason I'm sounding like this, because I've just handled a bunch of calls from credit card companies, essentially trying to fool me into buying into this moratorium plan. So these things don't work. Government has to come up with an idea of a real loan forbearance for companies that might go under in the next 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months, because this crisis will not go away. And second, you can spend money, she said, in wage subsidies in such a way that it preserves employment, not in a way that it goes to the shareholders to enrich him or her. So how is a wage subsidy given? Maybe a company, if you have this many employees, government gives you this much money per employee. It can be given as a grant. It can also be a soft loan payable over a long period of time at a very low interest rate. So it's not exactly a giveaway. Or, these are my ideas, or it can be something more creative, like the government saying that any company up to a certain size and up to a certain age, that will protect many startups, up to maybe 5 years old, maybe 7 years old, up to say 10 crores, 20 crores turnover in a year. It's not a lot these days. A chain of pawn houses in Delhi has more turnover than that, much more turnover than that, pawn shops. So say that they will be given the equivalent of the employer's share of the employee provident fund contribution. Now, you don't get it anyway. You will get it if you commit to keeping those employees in place. So this will be an incentive to not lay off your employees. If you drive in money like that into the economy, then that can have a constructive purpose. What doesn't work is that if you just keep transferring 2,000, 4,000, 2,000, 4,000 like that, because then your numbers are very large. You should do some of that also, and some of that's been done, but you just can't scatter that money as if a helicopter is going around spraying it all over, and then hope that this causes some kind of a revival, because that will not, and soon enough you will run out of money and you will run out of the ability to sustain your economy with that kind of note printing if you print more money. Now, she also said, Geeta Gopinath, that she still sticks by her forecast of 1.9% growth for India. That is something that our government's chief economic advisor, Krishnamurthy Subramanian, had said that he will accept. He said it sounds like a fair estimate. But then Shankaracharya, again a former chief economic advisor of Government of India and a very noted economist, he said, in fact, it's preposterous. And many others think that this is exaggerated. But she said that, look, if you are a country that or an economy that is used to 6.5%, 7% growth, when they fall to 1.9%, it accounts for a lot of loss. So she said this is a dynamic situation and they will keep looking at the situation in India and revise the estimate if need be. We can only hope that these will not be revised downwards and India will not go into negative territory. 1.9 to negative 0.1 is not that much, but negative just looks very bad. It is, after all, negative, and India hasn't had negative growth now for a very long time. Now, how can we be optimistic about today's situation? It's tough to be optimistic because nobody knows how this virus is going to behave. We've seen some few optimistic developments. There's a drug that works a little bit. There is hope that a vaccine may come up earlier than we had thought, but nothing is there until it's there. So the situation is uncertain. So she said also, this situation, in fact, I asked her that usually people say something will get worse before it gets better. In this situation, can you say that the situation will get worse before it gets even worse? So she said, the situation has not bottomed out yet. We haven't seen the bottom yet. It can get worse even now. So we don't know. There are uncertainties. And we already are sitting in a situation which is worse than the Great Depression, which is the decade of 1929-39, when America had negative growth. So we are looking at a situation that is worse than that. And what is even more terrible, this is now a global situation. Now, what does the government do in a situation like this? Suppose the government uses the approach of helicopter money scientifically, which means reach the money to small businesses, small companies as an incentive for them to continue and for them to have oxygen and steroids for now and to preserve jobs, and also uses a lot of money for welfare. Now, easiest thing is to say government should just spend more money, not bother about fiscal deficit. This is not the time. In fact, if you ask economists, almost everybody is saying it. The estimates of what they think it would need to fix the economy vary, from Ila Patnaik, who writes an exclusive column for us and who's been my economics teacher for a long time. She would be more conservative and she would put this extra spending at 1 to 2% of our GDP, which is a lot of money. 2% of our GDP is nearly 4 lakh crores. But, in fact, more. But there are others, for example, economist Pranab Bardhan at California, who said the other day on Pranay Roy's show that India should spend anything upwards of 5 to 6% of its GDP on relief right now. 5 to 6% of GDP is about 15 to 18 lakh crores, depending on the rate of the dollar. So that's a lot of money. Even if you start printing it, it will take you a long time. The point is, where will the money come from? And some answers to that and some questions on that Ila Patnaik has raised in her latest column, which also I am linking with today's description. Please see it. So she says, where will the money come from? Government can borrow more, but government's already going to borrow 8 lakh crore. In a year like this, when households will have less savings, when people will be losing their jobs, and people will also be scared. So will they then be saving money, or will they have surpluses to save? In such a year, it will be tougher for the government to borrow more money. 8 lakh crores already is a lot of borrowing. In any case, if the government borrows more, then interest rates will go up. Second, government can print money. बाप का राज है, because सरकार के पास तो प्रेस लगी हुई है, छापो. So you can छापो money, but as you print money, it causes inflation. You may say today that this is a deflationary environment. How can there be inflation? But sooner or later, there will be inflation if you print too much money. In fact, it is so sure to cause you trouble that during the Second World War, in fact, read up on something called Operation Bernhard. The Germans had planned an operation whereby they were going to print counterfeit British currency, pound sterling, and spray them by air all over Britain to destroy Britain's economy. So this is sure to destroy our economy if there too much cash comes into the system. Now, if the government does print that much, first of all, it imposes, as Ella explains, an inflation tax on the country, particularly those who have savings. So if you save money, suddenly as inflation goes up, you will find the value of your savings going down. So this will be an inflation tax on the rich because their net worth will decline because the net value of the money they have will decline. But that having been said, this will have more consequences because this is not a tap that you can turn on and off, because once you start printing, you have to have a limitation to how far you can go. And there, ILA suggests that you should not go beyond 1 to 2% of GDP by way of further deficit. So that is where we are stuck right now. Governments have limitations. A government like India has much greater limitations, prints too much money, there is inflation, the country goes into a fragile economy status, the ratings go down, macroeconomic stability suffers, ratings go down, then foreigners start pulling money out of your markets, especially from your bond markets. So all these are issues, although Krishnamurthy Subramanian had said the other day that one way could also be now to reach out and raise sovereign or foreign borrowings for India. So I think many things will happen. This is not a good year for the economy. This is going to be a very tough year. There are lots of problems. There are lots of dark clouds on the horizon. There are lots of bad ideas, but there are also some good ideas. I hope that we have discussed some of those with you today. Thanks to these two economists, we've had the benefit of listening to.